Welcome to the South and Sideways podcast on the Urban Sentinel channel. I'm your host, the Urban Sentinel. This is episode 06, Vigilante. I'll be talking about the growing trend of citizens protecting themselves in their neighborhoods from active street criminals, ineffective legislative policies. So let's get into it. Vigilante. You hear the word, what comes into your mind? Probably a myriad of images, everything from John Bernthal's The Punisher to Jennifer Garner's Peppermint, or perhaps a real-life person such as Marianne Bachmeier. The vigilante is real in every society, in every period of existence, and it doesn't always involve guns blazing or an epic fight scene. But why are there vigilantes? Simple. Vigilantism is a product of three key factors: frustration, failure, and self-determination. And let me break that down for you. Frustration, stemming from the perspective that there is a burden or bane that has plagued an individual or group without end, without relief. Failure, from those given authority over the people in exchange for protection and remediation of wrongs committed to balance the scales of justice. And lastly, self-determination, the final act to which a decision is made that only direct action can remedy those errors left uncorrected. Now, in a well-ordered society, vigilantism would not exist because the functioning bodies that regulate and control the ebb and flow of justice would in fact maintain a fair and balanced scale. Yet that is unrealistic. Humans by nature cannot simply be told, stay on this rhythm and hold this beat. It's not how we work. It's not how people are. The vigilante becomes life when all external forces have either failed to maintain a balance of fairness or even the veil of fairness, or when those external forces in fact turn against the individual or the group, placing them in the interrogation light of wrongdoer rather than victim. The innate desire for people to seek, on some level, release from the burden of restrained civility and the need to face the danger instead of hiding from it can be a powerful urge, and in many cases it could be equal or greater than the very danger or threat that lurks. Now, when you think about vigilantes, there is a negative to that, and people don't like them. Now, as you would expect, obviously, criminals don't like vigilantes because the vigilante stands as a barrier to their intimidation, their growth, their reign. Police don't like vigilantes because it gives the appearance that they are either unable or unwilling to do their job. But the group that absolutely hates vigilantes with no pause whatsoever, politicians and bureaucrats. When vigilantism rises, it is a blinding light that glares down on the truth that bad ideas, followed up by bad policy, are what bring problems to the citizens' streets and to their doorsteps. Today, in the here and now, a slow but steady rumble can be felt, growing dissatisfaction of citizens that obey the laws. They follow the rules, they play the game the right way, and yet they suffer the penalties. The burdens and the restrictions are placed upon their shoulders every single day. If their wallets aren't emptied by a criminal, then they're emptied by a bureaucrat. Crime exists, punishments exist, but more and more, those that commit the crimes do not receive the punishment. Simply, the people have had enough. Now, I am in no way encouraging bands of angry mobs to begin rolling through the streets of their town seeking street justice. I am, however, stating what is being seen in incremental levels all across this country. Citizens, on some level, doing what needs to be done to push back against the rising tide of anarchy. Now, you can easily argue that vigilantes, too, can be a part of that tide of anarchy, and you'd be correct. The act of private law-abiding citizenry knowingly and willingly stepping outside the boundaries, disrupting the order of operations in our society to remedy or regulate some injustice that has consistently befallen them, becoming on paper, in fact, criminals themselves, but it clearly shows the dire nature to which their circumstances have risen. In Hartford, Connecticut, in a neighborhood around the Garden Street area, crime is, and always has been, an issue. Residents have had enough. Enough of the vandalism, enough of the robberies, enough of the assaults, enough of the shootings, enough of the drugs. Several dozen residents have banded together. They call themselves the Self-Defense Brigade. They're walking around their own streets, cleaning up trash, needles, cleaning up graffiti where they can, occupying the corners and the spots where criminal activity occurs, all while legally armed. They are not sworn peace officers. They are not hired security guards. They are simply law-abiding citizens walking through their own neighborhood, being visibly seen and heard while exercising their First and Second Amendment rights. They aren't cracking skulls, chewing bubblegum, and taking names. There's none of that bravado going on. They are, however, being a thorn in the side to both those that care not for common courtesy or the common laws, as well as to those that would legislate and regulate their activities. They act as a barometer, if you look at it this way, for the city. And if groups like theirs grow and spread, it's a clear indicator to the bureaucracy and the politicians that their pandering is a failure, that real action needs to be taken, not just simple campaign promises. At some point in a not too distant future, as crime continues to escalate to higher levels of brazenness or outright brutality, civil groups like these will morph quickly into those images of a posse from the Old West, gathering together in the town square and then going out to round up those that do harm and hurt within their community. Their justice will be swift and it will be decisive. The reason? It's plain to see. Those that have the means to leave a decaying city do. Those that have the wealth to surround themselves with high walls and armed guards can. Those elected or appointed officials who are servants of the public, yet can keep citizens at arm's length with ordinance violations, threat of arrest, and spend time and taxpayer money making sure law enforcement keeps those that speak out in line rather than putting those that commit crimes of intent and have the means to carry out these crimes behind bars and then backing those actions up with substantive laws. This may seem a harsh, broad brush statement, and I won't deny that it does slap the face of many people that are actually trying to do good, or at least trying to do a little bit better, or the very, very minimum, not make things worse. But simply look at the cities and towns increasingly suffering with more and more crime across every demographic. It is no longer just that one town over there or that one block in that city over there, or it's not just simply affecting, well, it's just that one group of people. It's all over. And the pundits and the professors and the experts and all the talking heads that know so much better than you and I that shout time and time again, crime is down, the streets are safe, you're blowing this out of proportion. Quite honestly, they fall into two groups. A, they're liars, or B, they are fools. Simple as that. Criminals know the path these cities are on because of their policies. They don't have to be criminal justice majors. They don't have to be law and order experts. They can clearly see that the laws that have been put in place, the rules and regulations that they are supposed to obey, that they can easily break time and time again, is what furthers their ability to commit crime and make things worse. This will only lead to more uncontrolled, widespreading crime. The policymakers remain detached and aloof, and by and large remain unaffected by what goes on, and they will not yield their power to anyone that could fix the problem, or at the minimum, not make it worse, because that would clearly show they were either a liar or a fool seated on their throne of power. The citizens are left to either endure more abuse or stand and fight against it. And this is not done with ease, nor by some frivolous nature. These groups are formed, and it is from the harsh understanding that they're on their own and that no one is coming to save them. Now, it's not an endorsement for wanton open warfare on the streets of America, for people to form brigades of citizenry patrolling neighborhoods, fending off marauding gangs. This is just one of the many potential paths we as a society can go down. And we have seen in very recent times, just over the last few years, other countries where either the law enforcement as a whole and the policymakers that make the laws that are to be enforced have become the problem, and that the criminals are simply taking advantage of that situation. In many cases, it furthers their efforts and their goals to have that level of communication or lack of communication in that system. With everything that is going on as we move forward through the rest of this year into the next year, these things will continue, and they will not simply cease and stop simply because someone says, oh, well, look at the graphs and look at the charts. There's a 3% drop in this and there's a 4% drop in that. That is completely irrelevant because crime as a whole is still here and it is still getting worse. But what we have to understand is these are all pathways that we individually and collectively take. And no matter where, when, or how it ends, we each make a choice. And we must accept the consequences that come with it. And that's it for now. And I'll catch you in the next one.